And James is going to say that he's going to identify this dead faith that has only gone to the mind, that it's only an intellectual faith. And we read there in the verse, I just summarized for you. It says, "What good is it, my brothers, if a man claims to have faith but no deeds? Can such faith save him?" And James says, I know you're demonstrating this dead faith because it's empty. Your confession is empty. It's just words, nothing connected to it. And a declaration of faith, we said last week, that has no demonstration is dead. That's what James tells us. Now we're going to see today that not only is a dead faith have an empty confession, but false compassion. False compassion. Now let's look at verse 15 where we left off from last week. Chapter 2 of James, verse 15. I believe it's page 1882 if you want to use the Pew Bible there in front of you. Okay, verse 15. "Suppose a brother or sister is without daily food, or clothes and daily food." Verse 16. "If one of you says to him, 'Go, I wish you well, keep warm and well fed,' but does nothing about his physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, it is not accompanied by action, is dead." And again, we said faith alone saves us, but faith that saves is never alone. Real, active, dynamic faith is going to result in real compassion, in a true compassion. Not in some pseudo, I say the right things, I feign concern, I act like things really bother me and I care about them, but I don't. Here's what the Apostle John said in 1 John 3:10. "This is how we know we are children of God." Listen to this. You want to know how you know? Look around. How do we know you're children of God? "And who are the children of the devil?" 1 John 3:10 tells us. Here's the answer. "Anyone who does not do what is right is not a child of God, nor is anyone who does not love his brother." Wow, another hard statement, but it agrees exactly with what James is saying here. More than just sympathy, more than kind words. Right? We'll say, "Wow, I really care about the poor. I wish, people in starving countries had food. I wish little AIDS babies had the medicine they needed." Or we say, "Oh, I'm against racism. I don't like the way classes treat each other. I certainly don't like to see that in the church. And there's prejudice, and then there's exclusivity, and there's social strata, and all that junk is just as much in the church as it is in society, and it ought not be that way." And we say those sort of things. We say, "Oh, I think abortion's terrible. I think that's just something horrible. I think that those innocent unborn babies are victimized." And a lot of Christians will say things like that. But you know what it is? It's just all talk. It's all talk. Because you think about it, you may care about poor people in starving countries, but have you ever given a dime? I mean, anything. Have you ever done anything to help someone that's hurting, malnourished? Have you ever? You may be concerned about that there are complete, tribes in Africa that have to walk miles and miles to get water, and with that, it's dirty water. And all they need is a $3,000 well, and we think, "Wow, man, I sure wish they had good water." And that's it. We have 40 partners around the world that are working, many of them in developing countries, places with poverty, places that are struggling, and we send those missionaries. There are partners there, they're on the ground, they're working with relief, they're doing things. How many of you, I said, "Wow, I'm really glad we support missions," but give at all? Would ever even consider going if the opportunity arose? We can talk the talk, but we don't walk the walk. And James says, I see that as a major problem. I don't like the way the morality in the nation's going. I don't like these decisions that are being made. I certainly don't like the way the unborn are being victimized, which is a big deal in our country. It's a big deal to a lot of Christians. But when we vote, it's like it's not even an issue. Like, I like this candidate even though they're pro-abortion, and I'm thinking, what in the world? How does that even connect with what we say we believe? What we say we value and important? I know I'm getting on really specific topics here, but that's just the way I see it in something like James. He says, "You're doing a lot of talking, but I don't see anything coming out of it." I say, wow, how is that like me? How's James speaking to me in that same way? It's amazing, too. We can become emotionally involved in a movie. Have you ever been emotionally involved in a movie? And, you see something like a real-life drama, and, and some of you are criers, You cry. And some of you ladies are, too. And, sorry, guys. And you can get all worked up with something fictitious, and the raw, brutal truth is just miles from where we live. And, I think one of the most fascinating things to me about our community is that the Ritz-Carlton, you can almost hit a golf ball from there to some of the poorest parts in our town. I mean, isn't that just like the craziness of how, and that's representative of our community. I mean, we're a very affluent community, and we sort of just kind of ignore that they are hurting and struggling and poor and homeless. And, thankfully, we've been trying to get involved in that more and more, and we're trying to, push you guys out of the nest a little bit to get involved. But that's just a strange dichotomy in our own community here. That we have hurting, we have suffering, we have pain, we have addictions just down the road. And how are we getting involved? How are we participating? Again, James is saying that works is not something we add to faith, but faith is something that will result in works. Now we have a problem here, because a lot of people say they believe in God. As a matter of fact, can I give you statistics? You guys okay with statistics? Can you let me be a nerd for a minute? 92% of Americans say they believe in God, which you probably, that sounds good. Newsweek poll, 92%. 82%, according to Newsweek, call themselves Christians. That means they identify Jesus Christ as either their God or their object of worship or their object of affiliation. Jesus Christ, not just God in a general sense, but Jesus Christ. 82% Christian. The Gallup poll confirms that. The Gallup poll, this was taken in December 2002, so it was taken right at Christmas time, asking a lot of people what they believed about Jesus. 80% believe that Jesus is the Son of God. Of Americans. This is not church people. This is just Americans. Did you know that? Did you know 80% in this country believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God? That same poll was reaffirmed by the Rasmussen report, and then they asked one step further, and they said, how many of you believe that Jesus Christ rose from the dead? 72%. Can you believe that? This is America. I mean, you thought that this was a pagan nation, didn't you? I mean, you look around and you're watching TV and say, this has got to be a pagan nation. Wow, is this really a Christian nation? 9 out of 10 people believe in God. 8 out of 10 people believe Jesus is the Son of God. 7 out of 10 believe that He rose from the grave. Now I ask you, is this a Christian nation? Well, let's look down at verse 19. You believe that there is one God. Good. Even the demons believe that and shudder. Does believing Jesus is the Son of God make this a Christian nation? No more than it makes hell a Christian place, because it's full of believers in that sense that we're going to see in just a moment. And that's number 2, demonic faith. Demonic faith. At first I didn't like that. It was so strong. I actually got this outline from Warren Wiersbe, who I respect immensely. And Warren, he's kind of a no-nonsense, and I saw Warren Wiersbe's outline. I thought, I like that. And I thought, wow, demonic faith, that's a really strong way to say that. But, I began to think about it, that wouldn't demonic faith come right up to the edge but not far enough? I mean, isn't that the devil's MO? It's like, get just close enough but not all the way. And what we see about demonic faith, and we'll see that in verse 19, and we'll work through the passage completely here, but that demonic faith is intellect and emotion, and we'll see that in just a moment. This is fascinating. That even the demons emotionally respond to the notion that Jesus Christ is the Son of God and Savior of the world. They know that. They were there when He died. They were there when He rose again. It's obvious that they know and believe. And they emotionally respond to that truth. But they've never put their trust in Jesus. Indeed, it's impossible for them to. And there's so many following in the demonic faith, or at least expressing a demonic faith, that is completely void of any trust, of any commitment to Jesus Christ. Let's look at verse 18, and we'll build the case here. But someone will say, you have faith, and I have deeds. Now, what James has done is he has brought in an objector. So here's this, hypothetical situation where a guy comes in and says, but wait, James. Some people have faith, and some people have deeds. And the objector even puts himself in James's corner. Let's say, he says to James, that you had the faith and I had the deeds. That's acceptable. Some people just believe, but they don't necessarily practice. And some people do a lot of work, and, we're not even, we think they believe, but, we have workers and we have believers. This is what this objector says to James. James says, okay, well, how about this? Show me your faith without deeds. Prove to me you have faith.